Today, House Republicans releasing their budget. According to Jonathan Weisman's front story in the New York Times today, House Republicans will unveil a proposed budget for 2016 that partly privatizes Medicare, turns Medicaid into block grants to the states, repeals the Affordable Care Act, and reaches balance in 10 years, challenging Republicans in Congress to make good on their promises to deeply cut federal spending. Let's welcome to the program Representative Tom Cole. He's a Republican representing the 4th Congressional District in Oklahoma. Tweets at Tom Cole OK04. Congressman, welcome back. Thank you for being here today.
Hey, Tim, thank you.
So, that first paragraph, how close does it sound to what we're hearing as you release this today?
That's pretty accurate. Frankly, a lot of this is not new. We've had 4 Ryan budgets in a row, so some of the entitlement things, particularly with respect to Medicare and Medicaid, are basically identical to what we've seen over the previous budgets. There are certainly tough spending cuts, no tax increases. It does balance within 10 years, and so this is our vision of what we ought to be doing here going forward.
President Obama has asked for an increase in military spending. I'm gathering Republicans are also looking for that. How's it going to be paid for?
Well, there's a variety of it. First of all, over a 10-year budget, and that's what this is. I mean, it's this year plus look forward for 9 more. We actually put more money in the military than the president does by close to $400 billion in a 10-year period. This year, where we're in a transition, we're still under sequester, we have a lower baseline budget, as it's called, than the president does, but we have a higher overseas operating contingency number, and it's about a wash. I mean, basically, the president's budget, if you add in baseline budgeting and operations in places like Iraq, is about $612 billion. Ours is about $613 billion. So they're pretty close. They arrive at it in different ways. Part of ours, again, to be perfectly honest, the overseas contingency operation budget doesn't count against the sequester limit, so it's a way to provide the military with a lot more flexibility, get around that particular restraint this year, but keep an orderly budget process.
How do you privately or partly privatize Medicare?
Well, that's actually the Democratic/media view of it. I mean, everybody would still be covered by Medicare, but what you get basically is what's called premium support. The government says we're going to pay up to this amount of money for your Medicare coverage. We let you choose what kind of coverage you want. There's going to be a lot of winners in that, by the way. Not everybody needs exactly the same kind of Medicare. So, we think providing patient choice and access and competition in the market actually helps lower prices in the long run. And actually the scoring suggests that's correct.
So is this different from previous attempts to change the way Medicare is funded?
No, it's actually very close to what the Ryan budget has been. So, I mean, I think, this is a battle we've fought for 3 or 4 years. We can certainly move it through the House. The problem has always been the Senate and, frankly, the president. But, again, budget is, in a sense, an aspirational document. You put out what you believe. This is not law. It will control how we spend our appropriated dollars, for instance. But to actually get the entitlement changes you want, you'd have to have separate legislation. And as long as you got a Democratic governor and, president and a Democrat filibuster in the Senate, you're going to have to bargain. You won't be able to get everything that you want.
Right. So you'll have hearings. You got 12 appropriations you have to put together, and by September 30th, something has to be done, right?
That's correct.
Right. Unless you do continuing resolutions, nobody wants that.
Nah, not a good way to govern.
No. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the specifics in here. With the Affordable Care Act, I know that the House has voted many times to repeal this. So if there is a move, again, as part of this budget template, if you will, or blueprint to repeal it, is there some way to replace it? Is there a specific way where things like, for example, people who are now covered will still remain covered, or people who are able to take advantage of keeping kids in their house until they're 26, still covering them? Are those things going to go away, too, if you repeal?
Actually, if you did a full repeal without a replace, that's exactly what would happen, and nobody's in favor of that. So we've actually tasked our 3 committees with jurisdiction, which are Ways and Means, Energy and Commerce, and Ed and Labor, to draft up an alternative, and that's in the process of being done. And that's a very real challenge because, frankly, we have a case in front of the Supreme Court right now where the Supreme Court could theoretically, if they decide you can't have federal exchanges in states that aren't operating their own, you're going to cripple Obamacare and essentially destroy it in at least 30-odd states. So, we've got that movement on overdrive. I've actually supported a number of pieces of legislation. Republican Study Committee has had a replacement alternative for several years. But, again, we've actually got one in the works and should be coming out soon.
I was going to say, because it seems to me, Congressman, that with the idea of repeal and replace, which has been part of what Republicans have been saying for the last few years, it seems a little late in the game to actually be developing a replacement strategy.
Well, remember, there's been a replacement. There's been 130 or 40 Republican co-authors of the Republican Study Committee plan. I think there wasn't much of a sense of urgency, quite frankly, because we couldn't get it through the Senate. We couldn't get it past the presidential veto. What's providing the urgency this year really isn't the budget. It's the fact that the Supreme Court might actually make a ruling in June that would overturn Obamacare. But I think your point's a fair one. Frankly, this is something, in my view, should have been done a long time ago. That's why I was very happy to support the Republican Study Committee alternative.
Congressman Tom Cole is with us from Oklahoma. On the health care, there's an ongoing discussion, it appears, between the Speaker and the Minority Leader, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker Boehner and Nancy Pelosi, to do something on a permanent basis for the doc fix that could cost $175 to $200 billion over whatever the 10-year period. But it would also mean you don't have to revisit this every year. And I gather, from what I understand, that the Speaker is pretty much wanting to get this off of the annual to-do list. And I wonder if you can give us some insight into what you think is taking place here.
Well, they haven't actually told us exactly what the details are yet. So, I'm like you. I'm sort of operating on what I've picked up in the press. The cost would be partially offset by a number of really important reforms. Some sort of means testing in Medicare. There would also be some additional savings that would be systemic, but there would still be a pretty big budget hole. Now, the argument is, and I haven't heard Paul Ryan, who frankly I have a lot of faith in, address this yet, but that over a longer period, the savings will actually offset the cost, and we'll get some reforms we've not been able to get. And getting out of this annual, doc fix thing, I think is pretty important because it's so onerous that nobody's ever done it. I mean, again, the Democrats didn't do it when they were in power. We didn't do it. So clearly the original law, when it was written in the late 90s, it simply has never been operable. It's just never been effective. So you put these Band-Aids on it.
For people who don't realize, this is a way, every year the scheduled cut in what doctors are paid for Medicare is taken care of by Congress, but absent action by the end of this month, right? I mean, this rate is cut by 20%, and nobody wants to, Republicans or Democrats don't want to see that cut.
Yeah, well, they don't. And it's not just a question of compensation for doctors. What you'll see is doctors will just start dropping Medicare. It's hard enough now. I mean, we can guarantee you coverage. We can't guarantee you care. A doctor doesn't have to take Medicare if he doesn't want to. And the rates are lower than market rates and lower than insurance companies pay. So if you have a 20% cut, then you're going to have, you're going to, number one, have probably a lot more fraud because people are going to try and make it up by doing more in terms of services. But more importantly, you're just going to have doctors bailing out of the system. So, we would do it differently if we didn't have to get it through a Democratic Senate and past a Democratic president, and we may not be able to do that. I mean, these reforms are actually more onerous than the Senate's been able to swallow before. Hopefully, however, the Republican majority will be able to make a difference in that going forward.
And again, my conversation is not just based on the media, but my conversations with other people indicates that this is something that Speaker really wants to get off of his to-do list every year.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely correct because it's become a Christmas tree as well. You not only deal with the doctor fix, but a lot of people put a lot of other things on it. It gets held hostage. You've got a group of people that won't vote for it, and so it becomes a place where people can play games, and it becomes a sort of Damocles, if you will, over the heads of doctors who are the innocent people in this fix and their patients. I mean, they're the ones that literally don't know what they're going to be billing. We've had fixes that went a week, and that just plays havoc with the administration of health care.
Congressman Cole, one last question, and I appreciate your time with us. Obviously, we've got pretty soon another vote on raising the debt ceiling. Do you anticipate any challenges getting that through the House?
I do, because frankly, our position's always been, if you're going to raise the debt ceiling, you need to do something about the debt. The president agreed with that in 2011. Been one of the things that that debt ceiling deal, which has some real challenges, but has lowered the deficit pretty dramatically. It's actually saved the American people over $2 trillion in long-term spending. Last time the president, decided he didn't have to do that, that he was only going to sign a, quote, clean debt ceiling. In other words, it's like raising the rate on your credit card, the limit on your credit card without changing your spending habits. To me, that's ridiculous. And so I've always been willing to support a debt ceiling increase if we were doing something about the deficit, because you can't default on the credit. Otherwise, not. And I think a lot of Republicans are in that position. Now, last time they got it through with only 25 Republican votes, and I suppose you can do it again. But, the debt ceiling exists to force us to confront our spending habits. We ought to confront it while we're making sure we don't default on our obligations as a country.
All right. Representative Tom Cole, thank you for being here this morning.
Tim, thank you.
Yes, sir. Congressman Cole represents the 4th District in Oklahoma. He tweets at Tom Cole OK04. By the way, member of Appropriations, Budget and Rules Committee, obviously one of the in-tune and in-the-know congressmen, and, he pretty much knows what's going on in the Congress. What you heard there, though, is that the Republicans are ready to push back on the debt ceiling, raising the debt ceiling. So that'll be an interesting debate as we get closer to it. And, of course, the budget out today, something we are going to watch very closely.